let's define girl now. Because in one sense, we're all girls, but in another sense, we're women. Is using the term girl, like especially as a woman or like people over the age of 18, because we're seeing a lot of these internet trends from people who aren't children. Is that good? Is that a red flag? Does that mean there's something wrong happening in the culture? Is it the right term we should be using? What are our thoughts?
I feel like the term girl almost stems from a sense of innocence. And when we were all younger, we were all so innocent and we loved everyone, and there wasn't drama over, you know, having two colors of the same homecoming dress. Like everything was so simple and pure back then. And because of that, we all just loved each other and we were able to support each other without there being much hatred in the world. And we weren't comparing ourselves to other people. We were just in our own little bubble with our cute friends and our little pigtails. And we were just living life the way we wanted to without fear of judgment from other people.
Yeah, I think the use of like the word, like reclaiming the word girl, like when I was younger, I didn't like using it because it was like you run like a girl, you talk like a girl, like you're such a girl. Like it was just so, it was anti women and very used in like a sexist way. And it was, I like rarely ever heard it in a girl power type of thing until I was probably around like 10 when that started, like when girl power started to really take off. I think it's a way of reclaiming what we could have had as really young children. And I think using the word girl, like Kinsey said, it's like it's just like it's innocence. It's supporting each other without having other problems in the way. And I think when we use girl, it's just like a way to support one another and be like, we're all girls. Like we're all on the same page. Like no matter like what age you are, I don't know, educational level, like we're all girls and we're all on the same page.
I grew up playing a lot of sports, and I like what you said with the you run like a girl or you swing like a girl. And I played softball when I was younger, and I don't know if you guys remember Justice. Used to be my favorite store. But my mom would buy me these shirts. I'd be like, yeah, I swing like a girl. Like, why don't you? And that was her, like my first step towards this like feminist movement where girls, where the word girl or like you swing like a girl was seen as this good thing instead of it being bashed on. Because I don't swing like a guy. I don't want to swing like a guy. I'm not a guy.
Right. You swing like a girl because you are a girl,
I'm a
and that's a
girl.
good thing.
That's pretty good. Like,
A great thing.
I will say for those who don't know what Justice is, it was a tween brand store that was used to be owned by a company literally called Tween Brands. Also, if you know the brand Limited Too, I'm sure that someone in different generation might be aware of that. But that was also taking very girl coded clothing like pink, purple, blue, and just embracing that.
no, they almost made it iconic. Like, instead of being embarrassed about wearing a polar bear, pajama set, I was rocking those things and I had the matching slippers too. Like, I was not embarrassed about it because it was just so cool. It was cool back in the day to embrace being a girl.
Yeah, I definitely think we did grow up with this tension. I think that girls today might still be growing up with this tension. I mean, vivid memories of being picked very last to the end for kickball. Like all the dudes got snatched up first. And I'm like, am I really that bad at sports? Or is there some sexism going on in this room? Um, but even on a deeper level, just like blatantly hearing, okay, 2008 was I was like 8 years old. That was my first election, that primary. People were literally saying things like, Hillary can't run for office because she could get her period and have a meltdown in the Oval Office. And I was like, yeah, you're right. That could happen. That's actually, and then she could press the nuclear codes. And I did not see that was how bad that logic was as an 8-year-old. So that's really what I grew up in. I remember people being like, no, I'm not a feminist. Like, that's too far. That's crazy. And to see that switch from we're no longer like hating on what it means to be like a girl or women, but now we've all come back to, what, being a girl, whatever that means, identifying with that young part of ourselves is good. it's really, I'm happy to see it. And as someone who's like 23 and for some reason I'm like, damn, I'm just gonna keep aging or something. I'm definitely embracing the term girl.
Have you seen, there's this TikTok that it's just in the back of my mind. And it's this guy interviewing this girl. He's like, well, is presidency a man's job? And she's like, oh, of course. Like a woman could get her period or just have like a hot flash and bam, a war started. He's like, well, haven't all wars been started by men? And she's like, maybe. But and I'm like, it's like, why are we punishing women for natural things? Like, yeah, I might get hormonal sometimes. Men get angry all the time. It's okay. Like, everyone has emotions. You don't need to stereotype people because someone has a bad day.
Yeah, I've never seen a man, or I've never seen a woman punch a hole into drywall, but I have seen a man do that.
Real.
I've also seen that. Why is this a shared experience? Well, on anyway, but that's just an example of, we think we have all these ideas of stereotypes of women in the workplace that are trickled down through us through media when we're still children. So we're not even experiencing it. And it's all these images and concepts. And then finally, when we get old enough and realize, wait, that's doesn't make any sense. Like now we're entering the STEM fields. Well, I'm not personally entering a STEM field, but we enter these spaces being like, wait, this is a male dominated space. This isn't right. I mean, I knew to expect this, but this isn't the way it should be. So I feel like part of growing up is also, or going from girl to woman is like in confronting like the impacts of these stereotypes that we grow up with. And I think seeing women and girls like band together on the internet and in real life to make these inside jokes about being a girl, I feel like is like I think it's a positive step in trying to correct this worldview about what girls and women can and can't do from a younger age.
I agree. And I think, there was a moment in time in recent history that I thought maybe Day of the Girl was losing its relevancy, just as gender awareness and identity and our own gender identification changes. I thought, well, maybe Day of the Girl is exclusive, right? Not inclusive enough. As our ideas and understanding just of gender identity expanded, right? But that thinking for me has at least kind of come full circle, say, no, there is still relevancy. And really, in so many ways, we're talking about community building, right? Among girls, being a girl's girl, this kind of girlhood, the inside language, if you will, I think to me is encouraging, because I think ultimately it is about building a community. So that's exciting. And I'm glad to, at least in this moment in time, see that Day of the Girl still has great relevancy.
Almost want to play devil's advocate for a moment, is to say that so one person, Joanna Walsh to be specific, in a book called Girl Online, wrote that, well, might be taking the whole argument out of context, but a line stood out where she says women using language like girl as an attempt to, quote, go backwards or sideways. So in other words, the fact that we're just living on the internet making inside jokes about eating snack foods and justifying purchases, is this actually feminism? Is this constructive? Or is this a negative reaction to the pressures of being a woman in today's society? Are we retreating into this vocabulary as an act of rebellion or regression?
I think it's just kind of reclaiming the word for ourselves. I mean, men can say we're bad at math, but I mean, that's almost a different thing than saying, oh, well, I'm going to go out and spend $50 because I want to. So it's almost the perspective you see it in. If you're going to look at society and the way they stereotype women because of the purchases they make, yeah, it's not going to look good. But then we're also reclaiming this word as our own. Like, yeah, girl math, it might not be the smartest, but we're going to accept it the way we want, and we're going to take it and do what we want with it instead of fitting into what society is already stereotyping us up. It's almost like you don't want to fit into this bad box, so you make it good. Make it a little more fun and make it your own.
I feel like saying the word girl, like we shouldn't be like, and like it's a going back in like society and going back in times where we didn't have rights, is basically saying that the word was never ours to use in the first place, which I think is a very toxic mentality. Like we should be able to use whatever words we want to describe ourselves as people, and we shouldn't be afraid of using the word girl. We shouldn't be afraid that when we use that word, we're going to be undoing years and years of like working hard and getting women in the workforce. Like, no, it's just us banding together and creating like a society of our own. And I think saying that it is like causing harm to us is just another way to try to separate us as women.
I feel like the when the word reclaiming keeps popping up, it kind of alludes to something that was lost. And I feel like that girlhood and that innocence. And I feel like there is a way that living in a misogynistic society chips at your girl essence, as in your right to exist as the girl you are. And I feel like that's deep. And that's something I feel like that is like might be a universal experience for lots of girls and women. Yeah. Any more thoughts on that?
I think it is interesting to involve different generations in this discussion, right? Because there is that maybe that history of what was lost, and where the current generation might see it as a reclamation. Perhaps the previous generations don't, right? Or why reclaim something that we fought so hard kind of against. So I think, Camille, if it's okay with you, this is probably a good note to think about future discussions with, and how we do bring in the voices of different perspectives. Because I think words matter, right? There's a lot of people in the world and that study kind of the effects that words have on people over the long term and how we use words. So I would love to even just bring that as another kind of viewpoint that informs how we talk about this as we go forward.
I'm thinking of I think that one of the reasons why the Day of the Girl has it's continued to has resonance and it can't get outdated is because girls are the future. So the girls right now are not just our future, but our present, are making changes. Like you don't have to wait to be an adult to start being a change maker in your community as a girl. And I think that the goal, as we continue to grow up, it should be throughout the generations, our goal to keep empowering like the next generation and also keep learning from that next generation who are girls. So I feel like calling ourselves like grown women a girl's girl, or doing a girl walk or girl this, girl that, might seem childish to some women. And I think that's okay. But as long as, but I wouldn't belittle the women who use those terms, because again, we're all in this together. We're all trying to make the world a better place, not just for us, but for everyone. And I feel like the language that some of us use can just be a tool to get there.
I agree. I'm gonna wrap us up on that note, if I may, to say, hey, we are all in this together to try to make the world a better place for girls and for everyone. So let's keep talking, right?
Yeah, that goes back to your High School Musical thing. We're all in this together.
We're all in this together. See, that one's for Generation Z. As in the girls on this call, we're all in Generation Z or Z. But right as we speak, there's like a generation of young alphas bursting through primary school, bolting toward middle school, bolting toward the use of social media with parental consent. Like, they're on the internet already. They're engaging with this vocabulary already. so maybe it's not so weird to talk about things that seem to only exist on the internet, because kind of for the younger generations, that's kind of exists as a large part of our reality.
Thank you for listening to Day of the Girl Talk. This podcast could not be possible without Day of the Girl founder Jenny Brady, the UN for making International Day of the Girl a holiday on October 11th, and also the lovely girls who helped participate in this podcast. Kinsey Sullivan, Claire Wagner, who also designed our logo for this year, and me, Camille Williams, who also did the editing. For more, please visit dayofthegirltalk.com and follow us on social media at Day of the Girl Cincy.
Day of the Girl 2022 on Instagram.
See you next time.